At the tone, please record your message. One for more options.
Alright guys, welcome back to Roxum TV and also welcome back to Jam Crypto. Whichever platform you're watching on, I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. As for myself, like over the weekend, it has been quite a lot of ups and downs. I'm of course talking about Bitcoin's price because it has been quite volatile and very, very exciting. And I was like so nervous watching the chart. Like, as I keep talking about this throughout the past few shows, especially throughout the past week, last week, because this weekly candle, it determines whether we are entering a prolonged bear market. When I say prolonged bear market, that means 365 days of downward movement, so-called correction, or it's just more like a bear trap. Well, I hate to break it to you guys, like it seems like we are just like kicking the can down the road because like over the weekend we have a weekly candle actually closing about the 50 week, which is again a really good confirmation that at least like things are not as worse as we thought. However, since we are still below the bull market support band, so again, it looks like we are delaying for a week or two, but at least like we are not heading straight into the bear market. What I've done over the weekend is that, okay, I'll just be straight with you guys. Since there are different scenarios that could play out, maybe literally the 6th of October, it was the cycle top. Like for now, we still don't have the certain confirmation. Okay, this is the bear market. This is what we are going. So I took a little profit. When I say a little bit, maybe like 10% off the table. And I usually separate my trading account and my investing account, but like without further ado, let's hop on to the chart because like over the weekend, it has been so crazy. We know the shutdown is about to come to an end. It has been the longest shutdown throughout the entire USA history, so that's quite mesmerizing. And we also have some sort of good news from Donald Trump because he said that he'll be giving out $2,000 to American citizens. But we're going to look into that, what he mean by $2,000. Is it like American people going to get a straight up check, like $2,000? We're going to look into that. But like, first of all, let's dive into the Bitcoin chart. Like over the weekend, let's start with the daily. So we're going to start from the shorter time frame. I'm going to build to the higher time frame in a bit. So as for the daily, like, why would I say we're just like kicking the can down the road? Because overall, we're still in this downtrend, and we have been building this downtrend momentum ever since 126K, which is the all-time high of Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is just like hovering around, and then if we get rejected at this like key levels again, I'm not turning bullish. Like, I know, like over the weekend we have this like a macro significant confirmation. Okay, at the end of the day, we're still above the 50-week moving average, but like if we hop onto the daily, if we zoom out, like this downtrend we have been building basically since 6th of October. So we are not out of the wood yet. I'm watching if we get rejected at this key levels again. So one key level I'm watching. So another metric that I use is that, okay, if we dip below, so because last time we touched 98K, so 98K, so 97K to 98K is another level. So if we drop below this box that I drew, so this rectangle, we are entering a bear market, because like here, as I always say, let me pull up the brush again. The prior support or the prior resistance is going to be our support and resistance as well. So 97 to 98K is a region that I'm watching very, very closely. If we break down below 97K, then we have confirmation that the bear market has officially started. Let's also hop onto the weekly, because we're going to spend quite a little bit of time looking at the weekly chart for today. So as for the weekly chart, again, we have the bearish divergence of the RSI building up ever since March of 2024. So we have been building this momentum, this bearish momentum, for a year and a half. We are not out of the wood, but for RSI weekly divergence, like it will certainly take maybe another few weeks or even few months for us to play out directly and enter a deeper correction. So this is playing out, and it has been playing out for more than a year. Well, but it's not like all doom and gloom. Of course, like as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, one key indicator I'm eyeing very closely, let me remove the drawing, so is the 50-week moving average. So the 50-week right now, we zoom closer, is sitting at 103.3K. And the last week, so basically over the weekend, I was like so nervous watching the chart to see whether we're closing below. So anywhere below 103K, that means like, well, we could call it a bear market, but usually maybe 2 weekly candles close below the 50-week moving average. That's a confirmation. Like 1 weekly candle, there is still some buffer room, because like this has never failed us. Like throughout this cycle, the last time we actually revisit the 50-week, here we have the April 2025, here again in August 2024. So like this is the third time we're touching it in this bull run. So however, like zooming out, well, how much percentage of the correction? So this is only like a 21% correction for Bitcoin. Like this is nothing. Like it happens in a bull run. So it happens back in February 2025, down 32%. So that was in April 2025. So here we have like 31% correction. Here again, so we have this like 30% correction. Like point being, having a 20 to 30% correction in a bull market is extremely normal for Bitcoin. It's not like very concerning. But like why we are kind of having like in the middle of ground, like sitting on the fence right now, is because we are near the end of so-called the 4-year cycle. And we know 4-year cycle as we measure, let's also hop here. So there are two ways of measuring the cycle top. So if we take the cycle bottom to the cycle high, it is equivalent usually like in terms of its length is about 1064 days. So that's how we got the magical number of 6th of October. So if we apply that, we know that we are near the end of the bull run. So that's why there's so much panic over on Twitter. But okay, here we found support at the 50 week. One thing I also is necessary for Bitcoin to find support is the bull market support band. So let's go ahead and close the 50 week and zoom closer to bull market support band. So right now the bull market support band is sitting at 110 or 113. So we need to get above 113K for me to call it, okay, the bulls are in control. We are heading for higher highs. The cycle top is still ahead of us. Like, that's why I call it Bitcoin kicking the can down the road. Because like this week or like this maybe 1 or 2 weeks, the bull would have the opportunity to show whether they are still in control, whether they still have the upper hand for Bitcoin's price. So this week again, I'm so sorry to break it to you guys. We have to wait for the confirmation by another a week or two. But it's very nice to see Bitcoin found 50 week as support. What I need to see is Bitcoin get above the bull market support band. Otherwise, it looks like we're just following the 4-year cycle because we don't know for sure whether it's just like a dead cat bounce because we got rejected at the key level again. All right, so let's also hop onto the DXY because we know DXY and Bitcoin, they have a negative correlation. It's about like negative 0.7 correlation. Usually when DXY pumps, that means like the US dollar is pumping. Bitcoin would do the opposite. So they have the inverse correlation because it makes sense, right? Like if people see that the USD, the fiat dollar is rising in value already, why they would risk more, basically put their money on so-called risk on asset when the fiat dollars, like the boring stuff, is already generating money. So it makes sense. And in terms of the weekly DXY USD value, it has been rising. Like we kind of see this like double bottom, which is not nice. Usually when we have a double bottom, because this is like a W shape here, that means we might break the resistance of $100. Like if that were to happen, again, it's not a good news for Bitcoin or even for the S&P 500. So for the past week, we got rejected at $100, and then let's see how this week play out. If we broke $100, so that's not going to be nice for Bitcoin. So that's what we see. And let's also talk about the midterm election as well, because I'm not sure if you guys know this, like the midterm elections actually very much aligned with the 4-year cycle. So why I want to bring this up, there's a growing idea in the market that 2026 might be a bear market year for Bitcoin, not just because of the halving years or the mining cycles, but also because of the US midterm election year. So in the US, like if you guys are not from America, so midterms happen every 4 years, halfway through a president's term. So voters would choose like all House members and 1/3 of senators. These elections often create uncertainty. So markets don't know who will control Congress or what policies will follow. historically speaking, the president's party usually loses seats, leading to gridlock and slower policy decisions. And this is surprisingly aligned with the whole 4-year cycle. So Bitcoin, we have a 4-year cycle halving where mining rewards are cut in half, roughly 4 years. It happened in 2012, 2016, 2020, and 2024. So this event controls new supply and tends to move Bitcoin's price in a repeating pattern. And what I lay out here is that, okay, for midterm election, okay, we have for the past years, we have 2014, 2018, 2022, and 2026. And that's also happened to align with the bear market cycle. So in here we have the 2014 cycle, and if we put that into Bitcoin's price, so how we measure, let's zoom closer, is okay, we know 2014 is a midterm cycle. So what we do is we measure the price start. So basically on 1st of January till 31st of December 2014 and see the price change. And usually, like in a midterm year, so here in 2014, Bitcoin dropped like 75% within a year time. So this is one data we could look at. And the second data is that, okay, if we apply the same measurement, so if we take 1st of January till 31st of December, again, this is the midterm year, this is 2018, we see an 82% drop, like an 82 so-called correction throughout the entire year. Same goes for 2022, so January till December, that is a 69% drop. So if we apply the same measurement, we will essentially get like a 2026 bear market. Maybe it might not be as severe as, I don't know, 82% here we saw back in 2018, since we like to call Bitcoin as a macro asset, like all the institutions or so-called smart monies have already entered the market and nations-wise are entering the market. So my thesis is that we're still going to see a bear market in 2026 because, like, based on past data, is perfectly aligned. So even though there might be macro tailwinds, I am being conservative here. As I keep mentioning, there are 3 groups of people. The first group is that we believe the cycle top has already happened, basically on 6th of October, so 126K was already cycle top. The second group is that, well, I'm more siding with the second group, is that the best time is still ahead of us. We're still going to see a new all-time high, maybe in November and December. But if you ask me in 2026 next year, I feel like, yeah, we might be stretching that a little bit. Even though we might get like macro tailwinds, we know QT is coming to an end on 1st of December. We know whoever basically replaced Jerome Powell, he's going to cut rates drastically. I couldn't ignore the fact that, like, basically all the data that I'm seeing here, because, like, you know, I'm a number girl. Like, I don't like to just look at narratives or the stuff that people talk, because I believe narratives follow price. So I'm siding with the second group, and that group is like, this cycle is so different. So usually, as I mentioned, during a midterm year, we're going to see a bear market. My thesis is that, okay, maybe in the coming week or two, like we will maybe we go back and revisit the bull market support band, because this week we found support at 50-week moving average, which was really good. And I was like, it was more like a coin flip whether we would close above or below it. very nice that, very fortunate we close above it. But what I want to see is that Bitcoin get into the bull market support band or maybe go over, and then we will talk and maybe we'll see we could revisit the previous all-time high or even make a new all-time high. Because like I would be really surprised if we don't see a Bitcoin above 130K at the very least. Like we know we would like to use the 200 week as a metric to measure this. Like, okay, 200 week is sitting at $55,000. And basically we just like take how much the deviation it is from the 200 week moving average. And as for 126K, it was just like a 127% above. So I'll be really surprised if we don't get to at least, I would say, 150% appreciation compared to its 200 week moving average. And that will bring us to $139,000. This is just for 2025 alone. 2026, I mean, we will see. Because like if we go back to maybe let's pull up the log scale, and if we go back to the previous cycle top, we saw this cycle top. We saw this cycle top here. Here is November 2021. And here we see the cycle top again, that is December 2017. So as here, this is December 2013. So one thing I noticed is that the cycle top usually happen in December. So back in 2013, we have December, and then 2017, we have December again. And then last time that happened, it was like a little bit different. So it was in mid-November. So point being, I'm still siding with the second group. So maybe we're going to see an all-time high in November and December. If we do see it, I'm taking massive profit off the table. As I mentioned in the beginning of the show, I'm slowly taking more profit off the table as we getting into the later stage of the bull run, because it's showing on the hour side of divergence as well. All right, so that's for the TA, and that's what I'm personally doing. Of course, what I'm personally doing, it has nothing to do with you guys because I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not a life coach. And everyone has different situation when it comes to the financial needs. I don't know your situation. So adjust your portfolio according to your own needs. All right. So and other kind of crazy stuff that Donald Trump said over the weekend, maybe this is one of the reasons why we are seeing this tiny rally, little rally, and at least we close above the 50-week moving average. So that's nice. Is that Donald Trump announced this $2,000 tariff money, so tariff dividend for most American. Let's break it down in plain English before we got too excited. So yesterday, Donald Trump announced that every American except those high earners would get $2,000 dividend from tariff revenues. So he called it a reward for strong U.S. trade policies and said it would help pay down the national debt. That is part true. He really posted it on Truth Social, of course. But right after, Treasury Secretary, so Scott Bessent, went on ABC and clarified that this isn't a literal check. He said the benefit might come through tax cuts, like no taxes on tips, overtime, or social security income. So instead of direct cash handout. In other words, it's more like savings on taxes than new money in your pocket. There's no official bill or policy yet. As for now, it's an idea, not a guarantee. But of course, when this news broke, the market liked it a lot. And yeah, I'm just trying to clarify that it's not like the government giving you $2,000 from a check. They wrote you a check. It may come as a tax cut. And I find that quite hilarious because most of the tax money, so the tariffs money, actually came from American businesses. So Donald Trump liked to frame it as taxing foreign countries, like the foreign countries are footing the bill. But if you actually dive into the data, is American businesses and American households actually affording and paying that tariff. So it's just like, yeah, Donald Trump giving a little bit of benefits to whoever pay that, and in this case it's just like local American people and local American businesses. So that is a caveat. And then next thing we know is that the government shutdown. I like to give you guys an update to it because looks like we might finally come to an end as soon as this week we're talking about. So we know US government shutdown happens when the Congress and President fail to agree on spending bills to fund government operations. Essential services like the military and social security continue running, but hundreds of thousands of workers go unpaid. And this 2025 shutdown began on 1st of October, triggered by a fight over healthcare spending. So Democrats wanted to extend Affordable Care Act, so-called the ACA subsidies, while Republicans, backed by Donald Trump, pushed to redirect those funds to a health savings account instead. So Donald Trump vetoed multiple funding bills, causing the standoff to drag on. Now, at day 40, this has become the longest shutdown in the whole US history, surpassing even 2018, the 2018 one when Donald Trump was in his first term. So, roughly 800,000 federal workers are affected, either suspended or working without pay, and public frustration is really growing fast. And as for today, we have some latest development. There's some major breakthrough. A bipartisan Senate deal advanced a funding bill extending operations until 30th of January 2026. So 8 Democrats joined Republicans in a 68 versus 32 vote, breaking the deadlock. What this includes, so what's included in the bill, there is a reinstating fire federal workers. Like it means all government employees who lost their jobs during the shutdown will get the jobs back once the government reopens. And then the second thing that is included in the bill is the food stamp funding. So the SNAP funding is a program that helps lower income families buy food. The new deal promises that this food aid program will have enough money to keep running until the end of 2026 financial year, and that's September 2026. And then that thing go into the bill is that it guarantees Senate vote in December on ACA subsidies. So ACA stands for, again, Affordable Care Act, also called the Obama Act. The deal promises that the Senate will hold an official vote in December to decide whether to continue giving people government help to pay for the health insurance cost. And Donald Trump said he's ready to sign once it clears Congress, and with the House Republicans backing it, passage is expected within days. This gives the deal about a 80 to 90% chance of ending the shutdown by midweek. And this also aligned with Polymarket prediction because we love Polymarket, and Polymarket has so far been more accurate than the official data from the governments. So people predicted that the government shutdown will end on 14th of November, which means in 4 days. And so far, they're like 87% of people voting for that. So looks like we are finally coming to an end because like this shutdown has taken a serious toll on ordinary American people. Like my heart goes out to the people who are affected by this. Like I feel really fortunate that I am not, because like I know the shutdown issue is very exclusive to the US. Like not even the UK or Europe have this issue. So in terms of the impact of this shutdown, we know over 800,000 federal employees have missed their paychecks. And many are actually turning to food banks or loans just to get by. And as for the federal contractors, around 1 million people get no back pay at all, leaving whole communities financially strained. And as for the public services, we know tax refunds are delayed, food inspections are cut in half, and national parks have been closed. But the worst is actually when it comes to the air traffic, so the air travel. We know airports are among the hardest hit because due to unpaid FAA or Federal Aviation Administration staff, absence rates have tripled because like why would you go to work when you know that you're not getting paid, right? And since 7th of November, over 5,000 flights have been delayed or cancelled, with lines stretching hours at major airports like Atlanta or DFW. So the effect is tremendous. It's like potentially disrupting millions of trips or costing airlines billions of dollars. And as for local businesses, small businesses near government offices report like at least 20% revenue drops, while retail and restaurants in DC are especially hurt, of course. The combination of paychecks and consumer caution has chilled spending nationwide. And think of like there's like further economic impact on the Treasury General account. So think of the US government like a massive company. It earns money from taxes and spends it on salaries, on contracts, on public programs. When it shut down, spending stops, but income, like the taxes for the government, actually continues to come. That creates an economic pause. Like every week the shutdown continues, it cuts about 0.1 to 0.2% from the GDP, equal to $2 to $4 billion in lost output per week. The longer this lasts, the more pain it adds up. So meanwhile, the government's cash account, called the Treasury General Account, TGA, piles up money that isn't being spent. This reduces liquidity in the financial system, in the financial market, meaning less cash flows through banks and markets, raising borrowing costs and tightening credit. So when the shutdown finally ends, payback and delay contracts usually help the economy catch up, but the missed weeks still hurt families and small businesses the most. So I guess the big picture here, okay, with the bipartisan resolution now moving forward, relief might come within days. That also means government entities can go back to work and perhaps we'll get our Solana spot ETF that we've been longing for. But you know who front run the US, right? It's us, Hong Kong. So I'm really excited and I'm really proud of what Hong Kong has been doing for crypto and really trying to be we're trying to grow the so-called crypto hub in the whole Asia and really competing hard with Singapore. Anyway, so that's for the macro, like that's with the shutdown and also some of the rumors about this 2,000 tariff money from Donald Trump, because there's some confusion. Some people tend to think that it was actual check. All right, so I hope that helped clear some of the confusion on Twitter or in the market, if you guys have that in mind. All right, but before we hop on to the next piece of news, we're going to look at Kazakhstan for the crypto reserve, because they're doing amazing things for the overall crypto market as well. But before we do that, let's take a little break and I'll see you guys in 3 minutes.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
He's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
Promise you guys before we head on that little break, we're going to look at some countries that have been doing amazing things for crypto. And the first one we have is Kazakhstan. So Kazakhstan announced literally announced just 3 days ago, they will create a national crypto reserve fund worth around $500 million to $1 billion by early 2026. So the fund will be managed by the National Fund of Kazakhstan, the country's sovereign wealth fund. And the goal is to diversify its economy. It has been long dependent on oil, on gas, and mining by entering the digital asset and fintech sectors. Because I got really curious, this is actually quite a big country in Central Asia. I'm really curious the main income of the country. So they rely heavily on the natural resources, and they're really rich in minerals. So last week we know that Kazakhstan got invited to a White House meeting with Donald Trump, and apparently Kazakhstan is one of the countries that is really rich when it comes to rare earths. So I would say this is a country that we should pay attention to, and we couldn't ignore this country. Like before doing this research, I didn't know this country is so significant, but after knowing more about this, I feel like this is one of the main cards in crypto and in rare earths moving forward. So let's come back to the news. Instead of Kazakhstan buying Bitcoin or crypto directly, the fund will invest in ETFs instead. So this is a much lower risk approach, I would say. And I personally think they chose this route is because what they experienced back in 2022 energy crisis. So back then, crypto mining kind of caused the country the largest power shortage. So as for the general public, the sentiment for the crypto stance is actually quite negative for the general public in Kazakhstan. But it looks like we are moving forward and the government is really adopting crypto. The initiative is part of Kazakhstan's long-term vision to become a Central Asian crypto hub, attracting foreign investors and tech firms while modernizing its economy. The fund will be rolled out in stages and is expected to reach full size by mid-2026. And as for the country, so they have different source of funding. They mainly for the Bitcoin balance that they have right now, first, there are two sources. First is, of course, from seized digital assets. So Kazakhstan governments have been cracking down on illegal crypto activities such as unlicensed exchanges or pyramid schemes and illegal mining farms. And as of October 2025, authorities actually closed 130 unauthorized platforms, seizing around $16 million in digital assets that include Bitcoin and USDT, of course. And earlier in 2025, another 19 million was seized from scams and money laundering networks. Instead of selling those digital assets immediately, the government now plan to convert them into long-term investments inside the new fund. So this is one source of the Bitcoin, and then the second source is actually from mining proceeds, because Kazakhstan was actually once the world's second largest Bitcoin mining country, hosting up to 18% of the global hash rate after China's 2021 mining ban. Although energy shortages forced miners abroad in 2022, Kazakhstan kept the profits from those operations. So those funds combined with seized crypto form the base of the new reserve. This means the government's crypto exposure mostly comes from confiscated and mined assets, not from the open market purchases. Well, this kind of raised the ethical concern we have, because this is not only for Kazakhstan, but all the countries around the world, because we look at this on Roxham TV just last month. We know the US have the largest confiscation in history. So the US seized about 127,000 BTC, valued at around $15 billion, is considered the largest confiscation action from the DOJs. And this is quite concerning, because when countries can just go out and grab all these so-called seized Bitcoin, well, at the end of the day, where's the seized Bitcoin coming from? It came from the victims, right? If the countries could just grab that Bitcoin and without returning that money to the victims, where's the ethics here? Of course, the victims, so-called, they could apply a form. Thank you very much. So they could apply a form from the FBI to ask for some of the money back. But usually, from what I heard, the process is very dismissive. So usually the victims will just let it go, and most of the case they won't be able to get the 100% of their money back. So this is what the US has been doing, and basically all the countries around the world, not just the US, not just Kazakhstan, but it kind of raised the ethical issue here. Is it okay just for a country to grab the seized Bitcoin and keep it as the national reserve? I don't know about that. And especially from the case of the US, they just grabbed some Cambodian Chinese guy because the US is trying to build a national Bitcoin reserve, and China was really catching up, because before last month, so before October, US is sitting at number 1 in terms of Bitcoin holdings by country. The second is China. China came really close. They have 190,000 BTC on the balance sheet, and US was still number 1, a little over than that. But because of what happened last month after the big seizure, see some Cambodian Chinese guy and claim that he has been scamming American people for his money, the balance went significant up. So the US right now, they hold 326,000 BTC on the balance sheet. And second, again, is China. As I mentioned, there was a big balance up. So before that, they held 198,000. And after they still haven't arrested that Cambodian guy, which I find really ridiculous, because we know who that person is, but all the countries around the world, they only take the money instead of taking the guy. So yeah, justice being served, I guess. But let's come back to Kazakhstan. So Kazakhstan is actually a big country. It's the largest economy in Central Asia with a GDP at about like $250 billion. It's the world's ninth largest country, very rich in oil, in gas, and right now they have a new card, which is rare earth. And we know the US has a huge demand when it comes to rare earth. They literally hosted this meeting at the White House last week, inviting the 5 largest Central Asia countries to the White House to discuss where the US is going to get the rare earths moving forward. So Kazakhstan is one of the countries really rich in rare earths. So that's why US is trying to be friends with them. So let's see how that plays out, if there's any deal signed, because like last week it was just like a brief discussion between the US and also some of these like 5 Central Asian countries. So why does this matter for Kazakhstan or even for crypto, right? So this crypto reserve from Kazakhstan actually marks one of the first national level attempts in Asia to formalize crypto exposure through a state managed investment vehicle. If successful, it could inspire other resource rich nations like the UAE or Saudi Arabia to follow a similar path, using digital assets as a diversification hedge and innovation driver. As for investors, this signals rising institution and sovereign interest in crypto as part of the broader financial systems, even among countries that once restricted mining or trading, like Kazakhstan. All right, so this is for the crypto reserve. Wait, I actually want to hop on to the next news and the next sector I prepare. Of course, we need to look at AI because that is an area that I'm highly interested in, and there's like a major breakthrough, and it's from China again. So there's this new Chinese AI model called Kimi K2. It's making big waves online. It's built by Moonshot AI, which is a Beijing startup founded in 2023, supported by Alibaba and Tencent. People are saying that it could be one of the best AIs in the world, maybe even better than OpenAI's ChatGPT and Anthropic's Claude, because it's much cheaper to use. One thing I'm very impressed with the AI in China is that they could basically perform the same task, but at a much cheaper cost compared to the American AI. I don't know why Americans like to spend so much money. I don't know why. So Moonshot, this company, released Kimi K2 in July 2025, but there's an improved version called Kimi K2 Thinking. They literally released this just a few days ago. It is an open source model, meaning anyone can use or even build on it freely. The company's fast growth, like now worth about $3 billion, shows how quickly China's AI scene is catching up to the US. So why is everyone talking about this, and why the public is going so mad about this Chinese latest model? So this Kimi K2 is a huge language model with 1 trillion total parameters, but only 32 billion are active when it runs. So this makes it faster and cheaper. It's trained on 15 trillion pieces of text data, and it can handle very long inputs, up to 256,000 tokens, enough to read an entire book or a whole code base. And the new Kimi K2 Thinking version can do 200 to 200 actions by itself, such as searching the web, writing code, or creating reports step by step without needing a human to guide every single step. And if we look at the testing data or the experiment, like K2 is actually sitting at number 1 in a lot of areas. So people are very surprised, and especially when they are trained on such a cheap course. because reports are saying that Kimi K2 costs only $4.6 million to train, while in America, like the US, like to spend like basically throw money to the ocean, and the US will spend like billions of dollars just to train some AI, but China is spending $4.6 million to train. Like that is extremely cheap, right? But why so cheap? China has like smarter software that avoids wasting computer power and is smaller, more efficient data formats. And also when it comes to the energy cost, like China has one of the lowest energy costs among the whole world. Like China is so advanced, and just recently I heard there's like a super artificial sun that China is building. It's actually been building for I think longer than 2 years, but like only recently I came across news like this, and I was like so mesmerized about like of how advanced China is and how advanced China is becoming. And when it comes to this like AI, Kimi K2 thinking, its usage costs 15 cents per million input tokens and $2.50 per million output tokens, up to 100 times cheaper than rivals like Claude and ChatGPT 4. So how well it performed. Like usually, like when it comes to this kind of test, the Chinese models compared to the US models, like the Chinese models usually score higher in math, in reasoning, in coding. That's very interesting. And I think that is deeply embedded in the Chinese culture, because when you look at the smart people, like maybe American people compared to Chinese people, in terms of uni, Chinese people would like to study engineering or like physics. So it in contrast, for American people, they would like to study finance because it's easy money. You could turn $1 into I don't know $10 rather soon compared to other areas. So American people like to focus on finance. So I would say the education and the way they train the brains is very different. So that's why the Chinese models kind of score higher in math, in reasoning, and in coding. And this so far, like Kimi K2 is great at using tools like web browsers and doing long multiple step tasks. It produced fewer hallucinations. Like if you guys, I'm sure a lot of you guys have been using AI. I personally use it on a day-to-day basis. And one thing about all these LLMs is that they like to make up stuff. They have like fake facts. So-called hallucination. But with this Kimi K2, every step that this model takes, they would like reconsider and make sure everything is right, like step by step, to make sure those are factual instead of hallucination. So Kimi can understand text, images, or code at the same time, and it answers sound more human. So it's more polite, thoughtful, and expressive. So that's why people love this model so much. Many users say Kimi feels like a real coworker, not just a chatbot like Grok, like ChatGPT. It can handle unclear instructions like fix code or write report without being told each step. Because if you use LM right now, you still need that human touch. You need to guide that, okay, I need to do certain stuff, but usually it gets wrong. And if you ask them to perform an entire, maybe an organization, that wouldn't work, because you have to go back step by step just to check everything is running smoothly, just to check all the facts is correct and no hallucination. So right now, people are so mad and so crazy about Kimi K2 because it's very helpful when it comes to small teams or solo founders. It's like hiring a virtual employee who would work for them 24/7 and basically for free. This is why people say that having a one-person company or one-person organization is actually makes sense now that we have Kimi K2. So I kind of want to go back to the topic of China versus US because like ever since we have this launch from Kimi K2 thinking, literally it launched like a few days ago, and then the talk of China versus US in the AI race is catching up again. Because I would say China is getting so strong when it comes to the cores. Like China is really good at scaling up stuff. We know, okay, ChatGPT might came out back in 2022. It was a great surprise and it's a great use. But for scaling stuff, China is still really doing, I would say, is the best among the whole world. And when it comes to AI, there are ultimately only two countries, is either China and US. And with this model surprising everyone again, with how low the cost it could be, and the fast updates, and it's open source, and China has the rare earth cards as well. Like I would say, it looks like US is losing on this battle. US might have better hardware, like the computer chips, like the Nvidia one. They might have bigger companies like OpenAI and Microsoft and more funding. But what the Chinese is proving us is that even with limited funding, even with the limitation on the hardware, because even the Nvidia chips that being exported to China, they were downgraded. So it's not as advanced as the US one. But even with all this limitation, China is proving the world that they could do it. And right now it looks like it's maybe leading the US a little bit as well. So this Kimi K2 isn't just another AI, it's a symbol of a new global race. China's models are getting smarter, cheaper, and more open, which may push US companies to lower prices and move faster. No matter who wins, because we still don't know that, but one thing is clear is that the AI world is no longer run by one country. So Kimi K2 shows that we are entering a multi-country open source future where competition drives better, cheaper, and more human-like AIs for everyone. So I'm personally very impressive. I'm gonna slowly switch to more AI models, and especially the China one. It has been proven to be quite impressive. I know I talk about the AI trading a little bit, so on Alpha Arena, where 6 LMs are given 10,000 USDC to do some trading. And after that competition, looks like Quen, which is another Chinese LM, won the competition. Like all of them, they lost money because of the market crash, and it's very difficult in a downturn like this. But the first one that came out is still a Chinese model, so I'm sure that says something. All right, so we have to wrap here because we're running out of time. Just last call to action. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. So my personal Twitter is gemcrypto_io. Make sure to follow Roxham TV as well. So it's at Roxham TV. We have updates every half an hour. It's not just about Bitcoin, but about the global news, about AI, about anything that matters. All right, so I'm sure you guys wouldn't want to miss important updates like this, so make sure to give us a follow. And as always, my show is from Monday to Friday, 4 a.m. Eastern Time. Make sure to catch the next one live if you didn't make this live today. But if not, I'm happy that you guys could watch the replay on both YouTube and also on Twitter. So thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's show.